Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Karen Rupert Tolliver, and thank you for joining us today in a conversation about the making of the animated short Cops and Robbers. I am one of the producers of Hair Love, which won the Academy Award last year for Best Animated Short. So I love this medium. I love this project. I love that it got made, and I love how it got made and the story behind it. And I'm excited to dive in and hear more about the behind the scenes with this powerful group of storytellers. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the directors, Arnon Manor and Timothy Ware Hill, producer Lawrence Bender, and executive producer Jada Pinkett Smith. Welcome, and let's get into it. So Tim, I watch a lot of animated shorts, but when I started watching Cops and Robbers, I was like, wait, this is very different. You know, a lot of the animated shorts don't have any dialogue. You know, it starts kind of slow. You got time. There's music. Yours started with performing spoken word right at the get-go. It was intense. You know, you had this breathless pace that you were performing. There was a lot to take in. You know, and I was just like, wow, I'm going to have to watch this a couple times to take it all in. You know, and I really wanted to just get, and it's only 4 minutes, but you really kind of get a lot out of it. And the way I kind of describe it is that it's unapologetically Black. So can you talk about, like, how did you write this poem and, you know, and get it to spoken word performance and then get to share and turn it into a short?
Well, first of all, thank you for that beautiful introduction. And thank you for Hair Love, because that was unapologetically Black as well. And it just to see a face that looked like mine in animation just shook my world in the most phenomenal and beautiful way.
Mm.
Cops and Robbers, yeah, it this one does start with spoken word in actuality. Uh, it's a poem that I had written a few years back, but it's still unfortunately relevant to today. uh, the initial video, the live action video that I released on social media, I released it in response to the release of the video killing of Ahmaud Arbery back in May, a tragedy that angered me, shook me to my core, but at the same time did not surprise me because we have a history of that in this nation. When that video came out, there was an urgency within me to say something, to do something. There was this ache and this frustration, and I just had to let it out. So I pulled out my poem. I grabbed my iPhone and a gimbal, and I started to just jog in my neighborhood while reciting the poem, just to release what I was feeling on the inside. And I posted that video onto my social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram. And before I knew it, people were sharing and resharing, posting and reposting, and it went viral. And that's where Arnon Manor, my co-director, saw it on Instagram and DM'd me and said, "Hey, you know, I know you don't know me, but I saw your video and I was moved by it, and I have this idea to take your poem, divide it up by its verses, and reach out to animators and VFX artists from all over the world to interpret those verses." And from there, that began our relationship and the genesis of this animated short.
That's amazing. I mean, it's kind of a barrage, right? Of like all these images and all these thoughts, and the experience of watching it reminds me of 2020. I mean, it reminds me of, you know, right now, you know, that there's so much to take in. So Arnon, so Tim creates this powerful piece online. How did you see it? How did you get involved and think about the idea of making it a short?
Well, this video chose me. You know, I was like a lot of other people. You know, I unfortunately saw the terrible killing video of Ahmaud Arbery when it came out. It enraged me. I was angry. I felt this pent up anger at just years of this happening in our country. And then I saw Timothy's video poem on Instagram completely randomly. And it spoke to me in a way that it told me what I felt. It showed me what I felt. The emotional ride, I call it the roller coaster ride that he takes us through, from the kind of innocence of, I want to go back to when things were better, through to the reality, the harsh reality of the violent racism, and in this case specifically the police violence against Black Americans, and then back and forth through that roller coaster ride. So to me, it was the Ahmaud Arbery video, seeing Timothy's poem that just spoke to me, and his beautiful performance and the words and the kind of strength of that. Immediately I saw an animated version of it. I knew that I needed to do something in the way that I knew how. And that is to create content, and specifically, animation and visual effects. It was just clear to me that the powerful words that he had created and recorded lent itself to a very powerful animated version of that, a derivative version of that in its own right.
Yeah, the thing that's crazy about a piece like this is, your inspiration was Ahmaud Arbery, but it could have been anything. Like when you say, "Mother, may I," I'm seeing a grown Black man say, pleading to his mother. And the first place I go is George Floyd going, here's a grown man, and his last dying word was about his dead mother. So when you say "Mother, may I know you're having a play on children's, things and innocence. Tim, why did you say "Mother, may I"? What does that mean to you?
Oh, well, my heart aches, thinking about George Floyd. My heart aches thinking about all of the innocent Black lives that have been taken in such a terrible way. And my heart aches for those mothers. I went to Mother May I because it was a game about asking permission. When we were a kid, the way you win is by asking permission first. Mother, may I do this? And if you didn't ask permission for it, you were punished. You didn't get to move forward. And in so many ways, life as a Black person, it feels like we always have to ask for permission for our existence. We have to ask, may I? We're not allowed to just be. We don't have that freedom to do that. And when we step out of bounds without the permission from the powers that be, we're punished for it. We're punished. Our bodies are punished. Our lives are punished, which in essence, then our family and our people are punished. So that's kind of the connection to that game, a game that was so innocent that we played as kids. May I jump, may I crawl, may I walk this way is the verse in the poem. And it's the same with Mr. Ossifer. May I move to get my identification? See, my hands are clear. Can I reach into my glove compartment and show you? May I understand why you pulled me over in the first place? Because I don't recall what I did that was wrong. May I stay in my car without having to be pulled out and body searched? May I have some sort of respect over my own personhood, my body?
Yeah, my children, I've got two Black boy teenagers. And when we started Hair Love, this was now almost 4 years ago. And to be honest, I can't even remember the police event that was happening at the moment when we were working on this. And for me, it was about depicting Black men, in a positive light, just to help protect my children, because they do have an innocence about them. And I can't keep them innocent anymore because they have to do these Mother May I's in the world. And it's just so crazy. So the piece is multimedia. I see your face when you start, Tim, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm watching a live action short, and then it zips into animation, all these various things. Making an independent animated project is difficult. We've talked about sometimes it's a little crazy to take on something like this because it's not easy. Lawrence and Jada, you've got a prolific live action career as storytellers and producers. You could pick any project in the world. Why in the world did you want to pick this animated short to take on? What does this project mean to both of you?
Well, the first reason is because of that Timothy smile. That guy's got a smile. It's such a beauty. He's such a beautiful man. And I've known him for a little while now because of an executive who works for me, Janet Jeffries, who's also a producer on the movie, an executive producer on the movie. So I was aware when Tim put that out and I saw it. I was aware when he asked me, well, he has first gone, so Arnon and him had started working, and he made me aware and asked me to come on. And, I guess I go back to some years ago, unfortunately too many years ago, I produced a movie called An Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore about climate change. And I got to see firsthand what a movie can do to help inspire a movement, help educate, help rally, help a cause. And as a filmmaker, that's where our power lies as artists, as filmmakers. Our power is in storytelling, and storytelling is, it's just a powerful thing what we can do. Personally, we were in quarantine, and I have a beautiful man that was living in my house. His name is Trayvon Free, 6'7" tall black man, and his girlfriend were quarantined with us. And all of a sudden, we're hitting the streets, and I'm getting to do that with my dear friend. So I get to not have only my own experience, but to be living with a man who grew up in Compton during the height of the Christian Buzz, who knows this world very well. And so I feel fortunate that I had this beautiful experience of being so angry, being out on the streets, doing what I can do, and then have this kind of come to me, say, this is what I can do. Here's something that I can do to make a difference and be creative and affect people all at the same time. And I get just chills even as I'm talking about it, because, Tim and Arnon did such an extraordinary job. And, basically I was there to support throughout.
For me, when I saw the piece, my girlfriend Ramsey, who's president of the animation at Nickelodeon, she was like, you have to see this piece. And when I saw it, I said, well, what's going on with it? And she was like, at this point, they're trying to find a home or what have you. And I said, well, who do I need to call so that I can participate, so I can help in any way? Now, when I saw it, it wasn't finished yet. But the messaging was so powerful. And I have to agree with you, Karen. It was so unapologetically Black. And for everything that is happening in our country right now, it was unapologetically Black in such a painful space. And for me, not only did it communicate the frustration and the rage that I personally feel, but it also communicated the pain and the vulnerability of our community that doesn't always necessarily come across. And I always feel like that is the meeting place for compassion. And in that meeting place for compassion is where we can have understanding. And that for me is what made this piece specifically deeply important for, I do believe that there's different art pieces that communicate and penetrate people in a different way. And I felt like this piece encompassed so much of the vulnerability that I had yet to see with this messaging, which was one of the reasons why I felt like I really wanted to be a part of the project and help in any way that I could. And so that's why it was really important for me to participate. And I'm just grateful, and I feel blessed that I've been given that opportunity.
Yeah, I think you hit on something important, is that it's like the access to compassion, is really important. Like, we know our medium, just in general, entertainment is really important, right? And people consume it and they think it. But we had a moment with Hair Love where the city of Los Angeles gave us an award. And I had, politicians talking about they can make laws, but they can't change people's hearts. And so if you're able to do something that's going to change someone's heart, that's going to move a nation. And you must think what I do is like, man, we need it more than ever. We need to be warriors of that compassion movement, and how.
Absolutely. And I do believe that with our industry, with the content that we develop and put into the world, that we have a responsibility around that. And I know specifically for me as a Black woman, as a Black artist, as a Black mother of 2 Black sons and a Black daughter, it's really important that I can flow power, shine a light on projects and artists, specifically Black artists in this way. And so when I also found out that, 50% of the animators were Black as well, I was like, what?
That, yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so even from a advocate of wanting to shine light on other Black artists, that was important to me as well.
That is amazing. Yeah. I mean, for me though, I feel like animation is just starting to think like that because, I've worked in animation for 20 years. Never have I been able to say something unapologetically Black. And you guys know that, right? So I think that truth telling is infectious. I mean, Tim, you said you were inspired by Hair Love. God bless. People are going to be inspired by this piece and it's going to keep moving on. And it makes me think, you could have done this piece in live action. You could have, right? Why is there a reason? I mean, besides COVID, because that's not fair. I don't think it's just COVID because we didn't do Hair Love during COVID. Is there something about things in animation, because it's, again, seeing Tim, your face on that street, breathing hard was powerful, right? Yeah. And then I was talking to Arnon about, then you go into animation, I see the animated Tim, and then you take me to a funeral and I see Kaepernick and I see all these things. And then you come back to Tim's face again. So you bring me back down to reality and ground you. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are having, the live action folks, was there anything you learned about animation or, what are your observations?
Well, first, I've always wanted to be a cartoon character anyway. So.
You're a good one too. Very good looking one.
You should have seen how happy
Baby kids. I wanted to be a baby kid. So
I would say you should have seen how happy Tim was when we did that opening shot of him. And
he's born for it.
But the beauty about animation is that it's a different gateway to something that people can often feel afraid to explore. I'll say that. Like, you're right. It could have been done all live action. We could have reshot the original video and added real police officers and real chalk outlines on the ground and things of that nature. But animation gives more access to more people, I believe. And because a lot of people assume that animation is for children, right? Even though I still recall watching, the syndication of the Flintstones, and clearly those were not for kids, but we watched them anyway, but making Cops and Robbers an animated short gives a platform or an access to adults to have the conversation with their kids, regardless of their race or their ethnicity. Like if for Black parents, it can lead to the talk, which all parents who have Black children have to have. It can give a starting point to have that conversation. And for parents of white children who are trying to raise anti-racists, it gives them a place to start the conversation because they can watch it together and discuss. So that's the beauty of animation. I think it just opens up the gate in a different way because it's not so much, it's not reality, but it can comment on real things.
Yeah, there's an interpretive quality to it. So when you have your artist drawing, childlike drawings, it takes you to childhood,
Yeah.
But
I just add to that for a second, because it is, something that, again, we've spoken about a lot is, from my perspective, again, going back to the videos, right? The Ahmaud Arbery's videos and the George Floyd. And, we've seen all of those, the news footage, the terrible news videos, the social media videos, the ring.com videos that you see of, just the other day, the police officer that shot the black gentleman, outside his home. We've seen that, and not that we are numb to it, but it's like, from my perspective, one of the reasons why going into animation is we can take that issue in a completely, almost fantastical realm that is, on one hand, kind of divorced from the subject matter or different from the subject matter, but actually can heighten it in a completely different way. We can go as, surreal as we want, and still have the emotional impact, which you can get with live action. But animation has that ability to do it in a completely different way, and that's why I think the effectiveness of it.
And I also say, to add what Arnon is saying, is that, we did it once with Quentin, did it once in Kill Bill, but anime. But what I really got to, as a person who really is not in this field and is just getting kind of pulled into it and watching the stuff come in that Arnon and Tim is doing, is that when that claymation type woman starts crying, I get choked up even thinking about it, because we get, as a viewer, we get to put our own feelings into that person in a way that you, obviously having a woman be emotional is also very effective, but it's just different. It's like you get to put your own imagination into that woman, and it is deeply painful. And you get to, so it's great for me, as these guys are going through it, to really experience things in very different ways, scenes that are very different in animation, very emotional, very impactful, sometimes very realistic, sometimes just very unrealistic. And it was great. It was a great experience for me personally.
Yeah, there's an elasticity, I think, of animation that gets you to takes you to places really quickly. Let's talk about the music for a second, because Tim, like I said, you're doing a spoken word. There's a pause, and then music starts. And I think it's Brittany Howard from Alabama Shakes sings a song. Jada, how did that come about? That was absolutely sublime.
I wish I could say that it was my genius idea, but it was not. It just so happened that I talked to Lawrence, and he was like, listen, we have this opportunity. And I was like, oh my gosh, that will be so powerful. So Lawrence, I'll throw it to you.
All right. Well, listen, we were talking about, first of all, we had this incredible woman who laid down the track that Tim and Arnon had done. But I just said to Tim, I was like, well, who's your dream person?
Right.
And it was Brittany. She was from Alabama.
Yeah.
And you should talk about why you felt it was her.
Yeah. So first, the amazing score was done by my dear friend Jerry Compare. And he's someone that everybody should be looking out for and bringing onto their projects if they're looking for a great score for films, a young Black man. And it was his wife, Lawrence, that was singing in the demo track. And so when I brought up Brittany Howard, I brought up Brittany Howard because I'm from Alabama originally. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. And I said, it would be so cool to have somebody else from Alabama on this project. And she has the ache in her voice to sing this Negro spiritual. Soon I will be done. The entire lyric is, soon I will be done with the troubles of the world. And to have somebody that could give that ache, that pain, that desire to overcome something so atrocious, it had to be Brittany. It had to be Brittany Howard. It's like that ache in Billie Holiday's voice that we hear, and you instantly feel the pain coming. You feel not just her pain, but centuries of pain that she's carrying and projecting from the ancestors, so that we all can experience it. And that's what Brittany Howard does as well.
so what's great is that he says, Brittany Howard. I go, okay. So I said to Janet, I said, who represents Brittany Howard? So I call, and it's like COVID time, so no one answers the phones, right? I was like, damn. So I send an email, get their email. I send an email, just a cold email, and like within minutes, I get a phone call back. It's like, is this really you? I said, yeah. I said, okay, let me send you this thing. And within an hour, they had watched it, she had watched it, and she said she's in. It was such an incredible kismet. It really was.
Amazing. That's
shout out to Brittany's manager, Christine Stouter, who was incredible. Just as a note on the music, which I think is important, Timothy, because we spoke about it a lot. Jerry came on board first to do the temp score, and we'd worked on the short probably for at least a month or two at that point, just doing animation with just the spoken word with no music. And then Jerry, I think within like 24 hours or something crazy like that, laid it down, and it just struck as, this is it. We don't need to look anywhere else. This is and it completed the package for us. It was incredible. In 24 hours, he came up with the basis of it. Of course, it evolved, but we did not need to look anywhere else.
I call it the third character of this piece, because once we introduced it, then everything just the cohesion came. Like Arnon and I spent days, weeks, hours trying to figure out transitions between the different styles of animation. How do we go from these one segment to the next and give it a cohesion? But when we added that music, all of a sudden it just went.
Yeah, it takes you all the way there, and so that's what music can do. And, again, I love that we had been all through your spoken word, took that break, went to the rafters, and then you pick it back up and climax. It was great. I want to loop back, Arnon, because you sort of hinted on it, but you said something before that I just want to dive into. The budget for this, because this is like for people that are aspiring and want to do this thing. Tell me again what the budget was. And how did you do that? For people that say, oh, I can't do it, I need to get the money, I need to whatever. I want you to just really break that down.
A lot of elbow grease and hard work. No, I mean, I think it was one of those things that when there was an urgency, we'll start with that, right? We started the genesis of the idea in the beginning of May 2020 when the Ahmaud Arbery video came out, which was about 3 weeks before George Floyd. And so we were, not even thinking that would happen, and everything else that took place in the middle and latter part of last year. But there was an urgency. We need to do it now. And then from a producing aspect, I knew, and we spoke about it, that we have no time to go out and raise money. We didn't want to go through the traditional studio or production route where we it's just going to take weeks and weeks and months to get people's approvals. It was us. Let's get a core team together and let's just start. And thankfully, the strength of Timothy's video poem and the subject matter, and of course everything that was going on. So all we had to do was show people the video and say, hey, I need 3, 5, 10 seconds of your time, of animation for free. And just to speak of that for a second, it's easier to go and ask people to do 3 or 5 seconds of animation for free than 4 minutes. So part of it was that, but literally from our animators to our core kind of hub team there's a company in Toronto, Spin VFX, and our other executive producer, Nisha Ali, who gave us a hub, a home to work at up in Toronto. Through all our post-production, from our editorial team to our sound, to our music, to our sound effects, everybody donated their time. There was zero money was spent on this, which is crazy.
That is so important for people to just hear again, because just the passion of getting it out there, things come and it becomes a magnet.
But Arnon's being a little bit, underplaying things. Arnon pulled a crazy miracle pulling this off, and you deserve an enormous amount of credit, because people just don't work. I mean, you got a lot of people and they all did it, and they all came in and were happy, but you pulled a miracle, Arnott. So you
And
need
that's a testament to who Arnon is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't ask people for favors if you've been an ass to them. Let's just say that, right? But you know, the beautiful part about this, you know, is that it created a true allyship, because we have animators from all over, from all walks of life, different ethnicities, races, cultures, you know, from Vancouver to Toronto, LA to New York, down in Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, all the way in South America and Uruguay, to across overseas to Germany, France, and England. And the most beautiful part about this is that, yes, $0 because everyone donated their time. And our trade off to them was that Arnon and I promised that any potential revenue, this before we even knew Netflix would pick us up, that 100% of the proceeds would go to a Black charitable organization. So we've already donated most of the funds to like the Equal Justice Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also donated, we've created scholarships for 2 HBCUs, Alabama State University and Morgan State University. Scholarships, hey, that's what Jada knows about. Baltimore.
And also to Know Your Rights Camp,
yeah,
and Higher Heights Learning, and a bunch of others. So we've donated, you know, specifically organizations that, you know, help and empower Black lives. And
specifically the ones for the HBCUs, we called it the Changing Hearts Scholarship, HARTS, targeted to artists who want to use their artistry to bring awareness to different social issues, whether it is Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ issues, women's rights, so things of that nature. It was very important that when we say Black Lives Matter, that it's more than a hashtag. It's more than a yard sign. It's more than a bumper sticker. Where's the action that goes with it? How do we create equity to help change these lives so that Black people have equal opportunity as our white brothers and sisters to have a home, to have health care, to take care of their kids and their parents when they come of age where they need that care? How do we create generational wealth? And it comes with these opportunities.
That's wonderful. And you know, the other layer I hear from this is, you know, again, 50% of the animators were Black, and in post-production, that also, you're giving these artists an opportunity and a platform they didn't have before. So you're changing their lives and their professional trajectory in a way that's going to have a ripple effect. So that's amazing. And one other thing for all of you, you know, who produce, you know, you can have constraints always, but out of those things, you find ways to, and obviously Arnon, you did it in an amazing way. We talked a little bit about sort of happy accidents sometimes that happen through that. Like, you know, when I'm looking at your piece, I'm like, man, you showed the wireframe of that character and there's storyboards, but I don't know whether you intended that. You can talk to that. But what I liked was, again, you know, you're breaking everything down, you know, and I think that there's something that works on a creative level.
Yeah, no, it was 100%, you know, purposeful. You know, we, you know, the process was, you know, the poem lines, generating ideas, generating concepts between us, between our artists, and then we'd kind of work on it. And at times, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, you know, we'd get these amazing concept arts from our artists, and we'll, you know, we go back and forth and direct them, and then they'll start animating. And there was a certain rawness to either the initial art that they created or even the initial animatics, because they didn't think about an end product. They thought about a raw emotion. And then when we saw what they were delivering towards the end, it was almost a little too polished. And so a lot of the time we kept pushing them back and say, you remember that first drawing that you did, which was just a scribble on the back of a napkin? It had so much raw energy to it. Go back to that. So at times you saw that we did go back to the raw emotion and then the initial you know, creative inspiration that those artists have, rather than go to what we would consider kind of, the finessed Hollywood-esque type of animation. So it was definitely a direction that we were going for.
Yeah, because me being the newbie to the animation world, the things that most animators would see as being unfinished, in my eyes, they were beautiful. I was like, oh, those lines that the skeletal that you create before you even draw that. What would it look like if we just keep that? What if we keep the gray wire man instead of putting skin on him? It's like, I'm from the world of theater, both film, TV, and stage. And the one thing that you learn from audiences is that they love it when they get a glimpse behind the scenes. They love that. That's when they are so engaged, when somebody messes up on stage and it becomes a real moment for them. And that's kind of the eyes that I had being brought into Arnon's world and your world as well, Karen, seeing the process. There was something beautiful about the process itself as opposed to the finished, polished product.
Well, I know, Tim, you're a believer, and I know you're going to do some more animation. Jada and Lawrence, I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and you get the bug also to do more in animation. You've spoken to it a lot. I mean, you've got more in terms of what the short is going to give afterwards, in terms of literally donations and all of these organizations. I wonder. It sounds like the experience of making the movie was very profound. What do you hope happens now with the piece? What's the next step for you guys?
Wow. Well, I mean, for everyone in the world to see it. I mean, I remember it's the exact same question we had years ago in An Inconvenient Truth. What can we do? That was always the question at the end of that movie. What can we do? Here, the answer is easier and more difficult. With global warming, what can you do? Well, you could start with your light bulbs, but that's not enough anymore. But here, what can you do? Well, you can become an anti-racist.
Mm-hmm.
You can have compassion for your brother and your sister, whoever they are. It's just, if it could just start creating conversations, more and more conversations, it would be, we want to add it to the zeitgeist of what is going on right now. This has been a movement bigger than any movement in our country in terms of civil rights, even bigger than the civil rights era, right? And we just want to add to that conversation in a way that's helpful and that can just help drive the conversation. I hope I said that okay.
That was great.
Yes. Yeah, I think for me, just you have a glimpse of what the process has been and how many people have come together to do this project from their passion and commitment to the messaging. And I'm just hoping that people feel the spirit of this project through and through, that this isn't a project that's not just talking about how Black Lives Matter. This is a project that is illustrating how the project was made, that Black Lives Matter, right? And that all lives matter, of course, but through the spirit of this particular project, the idea that we have to learn to have compassion and care for each other as human beings, right? But what I love most is that this project isn't just about this message, how this project was brought together and the people who are participating in this project and how we've participated in this project executes the message, right? So even those who have participated and who are artists in this industry, that will trickle down, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm just hoping that this is a continued education process and to dissolve the conditioning that we have around social issues, specifically around the experience of Black people in this country. So that's my hope.
Beautiful. Well, I love everything you did. Like you said, the story behind the making of the short is as powerful as the short. participation. Everybody on this this Zoom is doing great things. I cannot wait to see what else comes of this. And again, congratulations. You made a beautiful piece.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
So much, Karen.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just want to say one last thing while we're still recording on behalf of Timothy and myself. Again, all our wonderful, crew and team that work with us, but Lawrence and Jada, thank you so much. I mean, as filmmakers and independent filmmakers, we could have easily just done this little, we call it a little engine that could, and put it out on our social media and hope that it would go viral and people will see it. But the fact that, Lawrence, you came on board, and Jada, you came on board, and now it's getting the platform that it is unbelievable. So we sincerely thank you.
I second that. Lawrence has been a mentor and a dear friend of mine. Met a few years back when I did an internship with him, and you've been a beautiful example of what an ally should be. And I thank you for not marching in front of me and having my back when I need you, and marching beside me.
There you go.
So, and Jada, what can I say? You've been an inspiration to me and our community for a very long time. And I didn't know that you would be brought into my life this way and in such a manner. And I have nothing but gratitude for you. And thank you for the work that you've done prior to this. It should not go unrecognized from a different world where you help to give our experience as Black people in the educational system to set it off when you I talk Demon Night that I joke with you about, because that's my favorite cult classic. But you continue to inspire. You continue to give hope to all of us, people from Alabama and the rest of the country who aspire to achieve just a fraction of what you have. So thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Tim. Thank you, Arnon and Lawrence, for allowing me to come on board and be in service to you, to all of you, and to this project and the message around the project. So thank you for allowing me to do that. I really deeply appreciate it.